Before we start, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Microphone85 for his donation via PayPal. I know this is very belated, as this occurred mid last year, while I did not actually find out until a few months ago. Sorry about that. Nevertheless, it would be greatly remiss of me if I did not express my thanks. I very much appreciate it, and I'm grateful for your message as well. It means a lot to me, even if this delay may not seem like it. Let me know if you have any direct requests for something you'd like the channel to cover, and I'll do my best to fulfill it. I'll try to, given how flaky I've been with releases over the past few years. A more definite goal set by someone not myself would be, well, hopefully, good motivation to do it, though I can make no promises with regard to deadlines. So it's been a while, hasn't it? And this break has felt a bit longer than previous ones, perhaps because of the pace at which Mark IV lore and fluff has moved compared to before. I started playing War Machine in 2014 when the game was already some 10 years old. And when I put together the first content piece for this channel, at the time I had 15 years worth of content to refer to, waiting to be repackaged and retold in what I would hope has become a somewhat distinctive manner. Coming into Mark IV, the War Machine app ensures things will remain interesting going forwards, if nothing else, given how much catching up I have to do. Thus, what follows takes stock of the world as much for myself as for my narrator, as well as for anyone else new or returning to War Machine who is looking for it. Thus, it is a broad précis, as it were, highlighting how things were in the civilized world, at least, from Mark III through Requiem up to probably a little bit before Mark IV went into full swing. What the uncivilized world looked like and what it went through will come later. I am not lost, but I do not recognize where I am. My existence is a small thing. I've always known this, but my goal was a magnificent thing to my eyes and those few who shared in it. The world around us, though, is an expansive and unforgiving maelstrom, and it is relentless. Much has changed in a mere decade, too much, many would agree. When I first set eyes on the death which had descended over us, I refused to believe it. While it is true elves had long ceased to be the pinnacle of civilization in this world, ours was a legacy which could at least be aspired towards, however distantly. And some small hope had been restored with our seeming reunification with what remained of the Nis and the restoration of Nisor. The change, or rather the upheaval, was devastating to those of our sect, whose motivations and efforts were suddenly rendered meaningless. Some of us were lost to this change itself. Others may as well have been lost to it. In any event, reconciling ourselves with this new reality of an elven people divided in ways we would never even dread in centuries past was nevertheless painful, and necessitated what would be for many a long process of acceptance. First was understanding what had happened at all, but the more significant step was acknowledging that no matter how much we asked why, answers would likely not be forthcoming in our lifetimes, at the very least. Then came the realization that our lifetimes might well be the last for our kind. For our souls, however few we may be, were tied to the power of the gods, who are all lost to us, if not gone entirely. Those among the Seeker Order who were aware enough of our place, yet had lost strength of will to persist, went into voluntary exile, to either learn more of what had happened to the world around us, or to escape those same changes. I was among the lattermost group, and sought out an old friend far to the northeast, in whose company I spent the following few years, accepting his pragmatic and ancient, even if at times strangely impetuous, wisdom. Both of us knowing I would eventually return, both out of need and because I would feel compelled to. Now, as I leave my sort of hermitage, I wonder to myself, what is the world I return to, and what does it look like? And will it give me reason to hope or despair? While only a little bit of time has passed, I know as well as any other that a great many things, upheaval and world-changing things, can happen in but a few months. I do not hold my breath that it will all be good, for I left a world which was recovering, but nevertheless hurting. In the aftermath of the battle at Hengehold, ensuring the infernal and infernalist threat remained minimal was everyone's main priority, at least in the west. Towards the east, Iosen and Scorn had, other concerns which cared not so much for infernalism. With the Scorn pushed back towards the abyss and the Dawn Guard in command of the Abyssal Fortress, given the relatively low numbers of elves and even lower quantities of replenishable supplies to keep the position defensible, I would be very surprised if the Easterners had not recaptured it. I am prepared to be circumspect in my route back home given its likelihood, even with the potential political downfall of the Archdomino Mercada in light of her defeat both in battle and in war against my people. Beyond this broad guess and other possible power plays, I have no indication of what may have occurred in Halark, except that the Scorn armies will no doubt desire vengeance upon the Elves and Eldritch. I likewise have little idea what has become of the southwestern lands, once ruled by the Protectorate or left wild. The Trollkin of the United Creoles who hailed from much of the southern half of the Iron Kingdoms found themselves a new homeland bordering the Protectorate in the Alkier subcontinent. To the best of my knowledge, this was not all as a single migration of the Creoles of the Fens and Gnarls, but only of those willing to do so at Madrak's original call. Others prevaricated but ultimately agreed and left their Creole lands later, presumably with quicker journeys because the Protectorate was left as a barren wasteland to be ruled by petty Sulmenite Visigoths and Scrutators who possessed but a fraction of Severus' wisdom and acumen, and who could not find a solution to the conflict started by the Hierarch's potential successors, whether legitimate or pretender. Quite what any may do with the peace which followed such chaos is anyone's guess, fragile as that peace was and most probably still is. The other realms of the Iron Kingdoms are another matter. It would be reasonable to expect Signar to continue relatively untroubled as that nation recovers. While young, Justin is a fair king with good counsel to support him. His kingdom remains a place of innovation and development of some sort or other. Whether they result in the betterment of the world around them is another matter, but innovate and develop they surely will. Airships alone will impact how the Iron Kingdoms make war more than what my civilian mind can imagine, but quite how and what the Crixians and Khaedorans do in response to their counterparts are also things I must learn for myself. The latter will no doubt be easier, as no matter which route I take back towards Western Immoren, there will be some hearsay before I see for myself as my search begins anew. Though, as an aside, what I search for remains to be decided. Irrespective, news of the snowbound realm will be easy to seek out and verify. I expect Ayn to be about her politicking, and to my mind the main question is whether Semyon Blastavia is still her chief advisor, for he was an old man when the Empress was still new to her titles. Death or retirement, either will mean some degree of upheaval for Khador's politics. The Empire's institutions have changed much as well, and given the Khaedoran propensity for competition for their Empress's favour, I suspect I will return to the Iron Kingdoms to learn of at least one purge in course to have dominated broadsheet headlines. As for Crixian reactions to what goes on in the courts of the mainland realms, there I can predict precious little, the fact of which it may be considered predictable. Even with the rumours which I did hear before I departed. The most important was that the Lich Lord known as Asphyxius had left Caen altogether from Hengehold, and so someone would need to take his place as a substantive leader in the Nightmare Empire. Like all things pertaining to that place, I could not and cannot confirm this, but strange differences in Crixian activities on the mainland lead me to believe it is true. No matter who succeeds him, Crixian politics will result in new conflict somewhere along the Broken Coast. Indeed, conflict may already be coming to Signar sooner than expected, as the pirates seemingly have ambitions to encroach upon Carian League's connections to Zu and the seaways between the two continents. The remaining nations of the Iron Kingdoms will no doubt do as they have done before. Their fortunes are tied to the fortunes and misfortunes of the greater nations around them, as well as the dispositions of their armed forces. Should Signar do well, I believe Ord will remain a good nominal ally, and Leia will have been left alone to redevelop their many ruined cities. But if not, the former will watch its borders keenly, even to the south, while the latter will likely be paralysed by weakness from within, and threats, both real and perceived, from without. Much will depend on the strength Queen Caitlin can display, but irrespective of Ashlin's support, I'm not optimistic, while her counterpart in the west, Baird, though certainly getting along in years, will reliably do what he has done best for several decades, and look out for himself first and foremost. And in the same vein, I believe I am assured in estimating the people of Rule will be the least changed from a few years ago. The dwarves and the Ogren who live among them have long upheld a strong sense of keeping the state of things between themselves and their neighbours, and I highly doubt their mentality has significantly changed. Despite the potential for conflict between the Rule folk and the freehold settlements formed by the many refugees from throughout the region, I would like to place some faith in Rulic pragmatism. Hopefully, if there be growing tensions among these communities along the border, they will come to an at least temporary understanding. And Ios, as I look forward to making my way towards where I thought was my home, I have no expectation, no hope, no feeling, just nothing. I must accept what has happened, change what I can change, and tolerate what I cannot. When I departed, the Iosan border was closed to all, and I knew only of the rise of this so-called Empire of Eternal Dusk, led by the new Eldritch who had assumed the legacy of the Consulate Court. Rumour was that they were not the only contenders to be the new rulers in the Mistbell, though I heard they wished to treat with the humans of the Iron Kingdoms. Even I doubted this at the time, and still do. Given the poor relationships between humanity in general and elvenkind with Iosan or Nis, I thought it foolish to even hope the kings and empresses of the West would contemplate diplomacy with Eldritch. This new empire notwithstanding, I had spoken with former mage hunters who considered looking for supporters among the undead. Such sentiments were also foolish to my mind, if perhaps less so. The greatest concern any of us had was that for the Fane of Nero and the ancient Eldritch who slumbered in their hidden crypts. A myth to some, but for those who have read the Chronicles, the tragedy of the priesthood of Nero, the Dawn Guard's absence had surely created a power vacuum in more ways than one. These are all past considerations for a future, now our present, which I must learn anew. For all things will look familiar, whether in Ios or across Western Immoren. There is much I do not know. Too much, perhaps.